The first full slate is finally over, and I want to welcome you to the DFS Sweatshop. I am your host, the DFS Jerusalem, and you can follow me on Twitter at DFS Jerusalem. It was an insane slate. We had crazy scoring, cash line up to here on both sites. If you had some Anthony Davis, you probably got some money right now. If not, well, that's not the case because the lineup I'm showing you here is one that I wasn't on Anthony Davis in this lineup. I probably, out of the 10 different lineups I made, I probably had him in one. So I was about 10% on him, which was my bad. But he had an excellent night. But what I wanted to do before we jump into tomorrow's slate was give you a look at my lineup construction, let you know kind of what I was thinking. This lineup cashed at 302, so it just barely made the cash line. I think the cash line was like 280 or something like that. I started this lineup knowing that I liked a lot of the Boston offense against the Brooklyn defense. So the first thing we did was we started with Isaiah Thomas. Now, Isaiah Thomas, I believe out of the point guards on the night, he was right up there with some of the best of them. The Lakers and Houston Rockets game just finished up, and I know James Harden had a really great game, but we'll get into that too. So I wanted to start the lineup with Isaiah Thomas here. Now, he was at a very fair salary. I believe 77.3K was his salary, so I got him in there. This game was actually a lot closer than I thought it was, so I got to see a little more of Isaiah Thomas than I had planned, which ended up being good. And I decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stack this game as much as I can on the Boston side to get as much exposure to this offense and maybe this runaway game. So I started Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder. Now Isaiah finished with 49.5 points. He had 6 rebounds, made 2 threes, had 9 assists, so he just missed the triple-double bonus. 2 steals, 3 turnovers, and 25 points. Jay Crowder, on the other hand, had a really good game. I believe he was at 54, like 5.4K, I believe. 5 rebounds, 3 three-pointers, 2 assists, a block, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, and 21 points. He finished with 36.75 BK points. And Al Horford, who seemed a bit promising during the game, but as we got deeper into the third quarter and fourth quarter, he had done all his damage in the first half. He finished with 5 rebounds. They made a 3-pointer, had 6 assists, 4 blocks, 2 turnovers, and 11 points for 33.75 DK points. My next play is probably going to throw you off a little bit, but we talked in the last video about the Charlotte center position. I was under the impression that Cody Zeller was out. Right before lock, I learned that he was just going to get a limited amount of minutes. So I had a couple of lineups like this, and I had them split with, I believe I entered this lineup in like 6 different contests. So I just split it down the middle. I was like, yo, and you can do this sometimes. You hedge sometimes when you get late breaking news. So I knew Cody Zeller was going to only see limited minutes. So I had Spencer Hawes on this side and Roy Hibbert on that side. I just split it down the middle, and this is one of the lineups that I had Roy Hibbert in. He ended up having a fabulous game for being so low priced on DraftKings. He was minimum salary 3K, had 9 rebounds, so he just missed a double-double bonus, 3 assists. The 5 blocks is what really separated him from some of the other minimum salary players. 2 turnovers and 15 points for 39.75 DraftKings points. The biggest play that I was on all day, with the exception of James Harden, we're going to talk about in a minute, was Hassan Whiteside. I had him everywhere. I believe just about every lineup I had, to me, it was either him or Anthony Davis. I was on those two. When it came to bigs, I liked him and I liked Anthony Davis. Well, his salary was so much lower than Anthony Davis's. I went with Hassan Whiteside everywhere and just a little bit of Anthony Davis. The lineups that I didn't have Hassan Whiteside in were the couple of lineups that I did have Anthony Davis in. So I kind of went the wrong way on that one. But hindsight is 20/20. You live and you learn. We keep on pushing. We stay in the sweatshop. We learn and we grow and we go get this money. So Hassan Whiteside. Now, as I'm sitting watching the games, because I'm watching it via League Pass, and Hassan Whiteside is fucking cleaning up. He's blocking shots. His jump hook is working. He's even passing the ball a little bit, Oh yeah, 1 assist. Everything is working. I'm like, yeah, this guy's probably gonna be one of the top plays of the night. So I switch out and check over in the Denver game. I'm like, oh shit, it's like the first quarter, dude has 24 points. Oh my god, it's the first half. He has like 60 points. Well, we all know how that ended for those of us that didn't start Anthony Davis. So Hassan Whiteside goes out and he gets 14 rebounds, an assist, 4 blocks, a turnover, 18 points, and he did meet the double-double bonus for 46 DraftKings points, which was good. Which was good. That was what I was hoping for when I decided to go with Hassan Whiteside basically everywhere. So that was good. Uh, the two spots where the lineup really faltered were with Langston Galloway from the New Orleans Pelicans and Denver game and Rashawn Holmes. Now, I was under the impression that we would see limited minutes from Joel Embiid as well as limited minutes from Jahlil Okafor. Well, Okafor ended up playing pretty decent, and Embiid, the crowd called for him to come back out. I mean, he was playing well as well. So there wasn't a lot of room for Rashawn Holmes to really get it in, and plus, he didn't get the scrub love because they stayed in the game the entire time. I mean, this game went down to the end. And this is a part of my, fade Westbrook deal. I didn't play Westbrook anywhere, no lineup. I didn't play him anywhere. And if you did, he did what he was supposed to do. He got 60 DK points, so you came out fine with that. And to round out the lineup, I knew I was going to have James Harden everywhere I could fit him in. He finished with 8 rebounds, a 3-pointer, 17 assists, 1 steal, 7 turnovers, 34 points, and he did, of course, meet a double-double bonus for 70 points. So we had some offensive explosions on today. Just some explosions in general when it came down to a few players. So we got to keep this in mind. The last time we talked, I told you the dude is a monster. I told you Anthony Davis was a fucking monster, and he was on my mind to play. That's why I brought him up in conversation, but I just could not ignore the perceived value of Hassan Whiteside. So a lot of times when you're that conflicted between two players, split it down the middle and go both ways. That's what I should have did. That's what I did when the stakes were low, when I was deciding what to do with 3K players, what I do with Roy Hibbert and Spencer Hawes. I stepped back, fuck it, split it down the middle. It's 3K, I didn't give a fuck. But when it came to Hassan Whiteside and, who was, I believe, about 8.6, I think he was 8.6K, and, Anthony Davis, who was 10K, I got timid and gun-shy and wanted to still be able to spend up in other areas, so I ended up, not going Anthony Davis, which I should have. But like we said, hindsight is 20/20, and now I'm gonna get into the Davis lineup. All right, this is the Davis lineup. This lineup actually finished less than with less points, 292 points, less than the other one. And just gonna, give you a little bit of where I got this from. So, we talked the last video. We talked a little bit about the Charlotte offense, and I wasn't really on them. But the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what, Kemba Walker might be a good play. And like we've talked about before, sometimes you're on the right track. Most of the time, you're on the right track. You are a DFS player. You play this all the time. A lot of times when you have a thought, when you have a guy in your head, you're on the right track. But in this game, it wasn't Kemba Walker, it wasn't Nicholas Batum, and it wasn't Roy Hibbert. It was, or Marvin Williams. It was actually Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who I talked about in the last video, but I didn't get him anywhere in my lineup. So we started this lineup with Kemba Walker. He had 2 rebounds, 3 3-pointers, 8 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, and 17 points. He finished with 36 DK points. Of course, I like correlations and stacks, and I feel like if Kemba Walker is going to be passing the ball and going to be playing well, Nicholas Batum is going to benefit. So I started Nicholas Batum here at the small forward. 6 rebounds, 1 3-pointer made, 7 assists, 2 steals, 1 turnover, and 9 points for 31 DraftKings points. Now, just looking at Nicholas Batum's line, you wouldn't think that he would, he would meet value. You wouldn't think, because small totals and a bunch of different stat categories is how he does, and you'll see that with him as the season goes on. He's like a Giannis light. You know what I mean? He's like a Giannis light. Like, he can do everything. Okay, now Al Horford, of course, we talked about him. I wanted to get some exposure to the Boston game, so I started Al Horford and Amir Johnson. Now, Amir Johnson got me 19.75 DraftKings points for about 3.7K. That's value. That's value. But it's really not. On a night like tonight, where you needed to score upwards of 300, almost 400 points to really, really make some money, everybody's got to be, lights out. Everybody's got to be lights out. And of course, Langston Galloway was a recurring theme throughout my lineups. Unfortunately, right here, he just a horrible game from Langston Galloway. And now I'm thinking, cause see, I'm trying to predict the scrub love. I'm trying to predict the scrub love. So I liked Langston Galloway. I liked Darius Sarkic as well. And he ended up with 15.75 DraftKings points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, and 5 points. This is Anthony Davis line. Dude went nuts. The dude went fucking nuts. 16 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks, 7 steals, 3 turnovers, 50 points, the double-double bonus for 99.5 DK points. Let that shit sink in for a minute. Let that sink in for a minute. This dude put up 99.5 DraftKings points. And the ownership wasn't even that high on him. The ownership was not even that high on him. I believe it gauged between 11 and 17% in most GPPs. So it wasn't like, if you didn't have him, you couldn't cash, But if you got him, you had something. And there's going to be that guy every night, because this is such a talented league, such a talented collection of players in this league. You're going to have that guy every night. DeMar DeRozan also had an excellent game. He's so scoring dependent that it's hard to roster him with consistency, because he's not going to go out and score 40 points every night. He got 4 rebounds, an assist, a steal, 6 turnovers, and 40 points. So this dude almost has as many points as he has DraftKings points. He had 45.5 DraftKings points, but he had 40 real life points. That's somebody that you can't roster him and feel comfortable about it every night. The better, the more he does the other things, the better he'll be. So that was that lineup. And I believe this lineup was at 290, 292 for that lineup. Yeah. Okay. Well, tomorrow, or today actually, because it's already tomorrow, we've got a really small slate of games. I believe we got a 4-game slate, and we're gonna just jump into it a little bit and see, where guys are, and see what we can do. All right. So we're gonna create an NBA lineup, and something I want you to pay attention to is that if you pay attention, you'll notice that tonight on this slate, you didn't really have to start a small forward. Small forward was the most bothersome position to roster with confidence. And the way DraftKings has changed 2 things. They've changed 2 things. Number 1, the late swap. If you didn't know, now you know. They changed the late swap, and they've also reworked the player positions so that some players can have multiple positioning in your rosters. So tonight, you didn't even have to play a small forward if you didn't want to. You could have played a shooting guard in one small forward spot, and played a power forward in the other regular forward spot, and then played another power forward. And pay attention to that. That's going to be a key element going forward, because honestly, unless you've got LeBron on the slate, and Carmelo, and there's not a lot of there's not a lot of those stretch four guys that play those there's not a lot of those threes that are really fours that really play. There's not a lot of them. So when you don't have LeBron on the slate, when you don't have Kawhi Leonard on the slate, you don't have Carmelo on the slate, you gotta really hunt. You don't got Paul George on the slate. You gotta really hunt for value. You had to in the past, but now you can take a shooting guard, stick them in that spot, and you don't have to worry about small forward anymore. So tonight, let's look at how the point guard position is going to be shaping up. Now, the highest priced point guard coming in at 9.2K is going to be Dame Lillard. Now, Dame Lillard is in a it says a 13th ranked opponent against the point guards, but this is Chris Paul we're talking about. This is not a plus matchup for him. Chris Paul does a really good job defending the perimeter, so I really don't see Dame having one of those like Dame games where he just goes the fuck off. And at 9.2K, that's kind of what you need on this small slate. So I think I wouldn't too much. I'm only putting in one lineup tomorrow. It's a 4-game slate. I'm not going ham. I'm gonna put in one lineup in like 8 different contests, and I'm gonna just let the dice roll. I'm just let it go. And I don't think I'm gonna be rostering Dame Lillard tomorrow. I'm gonna fade Dame tomorrow. We've got Chris Paul coming in at 8.8K against Damian Lillard, who is not really a great defender. So I definitely think that you could see Chris Paul in a lot of lineups. Now, this is going to sound crazy because Chris Paul defense is a lot different from Dennis Schroeder defense, because Atlanta as a team is really good against the point guard position. Atlanta as a team is really good against the point guard position. But John Wall is one of those talents that I just gotta get in my lineup. I like John Wall, especially him being like the focal point of the offense. There's not another guy that can pick up the slack. Nobody else can do what John Wall does on that team. If Dame isn't scoring, McCollum can score. There's other guys that can kind of pick up the pace. They're a pretty good shooting team on the perimeter. All of them are. So I really like John Wall tomorrow. Isaiah Thomas coming off a back-to-back, but it's the beginning of the season, so it doesn't really matter that much. Later on in the season, these back-to-backs are going to be like wearing on guys, so you're going to want to, be on the lookout for that. But I like Isaiah Thomas tomorrow. CJ McCollum coming in at 6.8K is somebody who I'm probably going to avoid. He may see some Austin Rivers defense, and he may see some Bamute defense, Bamute is a pretty good defender as well. So I don't think I'm going to go the route of CJ McCollum tomorrow. You got Dennis Schroeder coming in at 6.5K. John Wall doesn't care about playing defense as much as he cares about scoring. So I like Dennis Schroeder. You can get him in your lineup. I have no problem with that. Rajon Rondo, I'm not starting him because when he's playing against Boston, and when Boston plays point guards that can't shoot, they shut him the fuck down. Like, they shut him down. You got to be able to shoot the ball if you're a point guard going up against that Boston defense. If you can't shoot, they're going to destroy. They're going to shut you down. So you're going to see Ty Lawson again tomorrow night going up against the San Antonio Spurs. And you know what? I've got a very simple rule. If I don't have to, I'm not going to roster anybody against the Spurs. If I don't have to, I'm not. So Boogie's out. I believe I can get out of this slate without playing anybody against the Spurs and playing, getting some scrub love from the Spurs bench. Of course, Darren Collinson's still out. He likes to hit the chicks. Marcus Smart is out. You got Tony Parker, Patty Mills, who I think is going to be a decent play. They're not going to want to play Tony Parker as much. So anytime you're going to get a chance to get Patty Mills in a plus matchup with a big point differential, I think you can fire Patty Mills up. He's going to be in my lineups tomorrow. You got Terry Rozier for the cheap, 3.3K. Austin Rivers is going to be in there for 3.3K. Tim Hardaway Jr. is somebody else who I like. He's minimum salary going against the Washington Wizards, so he may be, if you need that punt. But you would only need a punt play tomorrow if you're really trying to separate yourself and you just want to take a chance. But I'm just going to make one lineup and just try to hit the cash line with it in 8 different contests. That's what I'm gonna do. So I'm pretty much playing a cash game. I'm pretty much playing a cash game tomorrow. So that's how that's gonna go. All right, let's look at the shooting guard position. This is probably the slimmest position in the league right now, but we're kind of chock full on this slate. I like a lot of these shooting guards. We've got and plus, like we were talking about, but you can the way you can change where guys have changed. Like Jimmy Butler is shooting guard and small forward eligible. So if you don't want to start a small forward tomorrow, you don't like one, then you can put Jimmy Butler right there. You can put Kent Bazemore in there if you feel like rostering him. So we look at Jimmy Butler. He is in what should be a minus matchup against the Boston Celtics. Now, Boston is really good at defending the perimeter, but the perimeter shooting is non-existent on this Chicago team. So they're going to be able to just straight match up player for player, man for man with the Chicago Bulls. So I don't like Jimmy Butler tomorrow. I mean, just because he's such an awesome athlete and the heart and soul, like the leader of the team, he is rosterable, definitely. He is in play, but I don't think I'm going to go that route. You got C.J. McCollum, who we talked about already. He could go point guard or shooting guard. Dwayne Wade, first game back at the crib. In a minus matchup, I don't like Dwayne Wade tomorrow. Bradley Beal, of course. Now, Bradley Beal is tricky. He and DeMar DeRozan kind of remind me of each other. Bradley Beal won't do anything else but score. But when he does score, he does. So I'm going to look at that a little closer and see, if I'd like to get Bradley Beal in a few lines. Because if you got, they kind of go like hand in hand. Like I was talking about the last video with Kyle Lowry. And there's going to be times I'll tell you, hey, fire up Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, play him. And there's going to be times when I tell you to fire up. Damn, how did shit? Like that. Okay. And there's gonna be times when I tell you to fire up Bradley Beal and John Wall when they're in like ultra plus matchups. You can fire them up. Let's get back to the shooting guard here. Okay. Yeah. Avery Bradley, next one we're going to talk about. Now, Avery Bradley, he's a very good defender. He's probably going to see the Jimmy Butler duty, and that's going to lead him to expend a lot of energy on defense. I don't see him scoring very much, so I probably won't be too heavy on Avery Bradley, but I do kind of like him. And Marcus Smart, of course, he's out. Evan Turner for Portland. I don't like Evan Turner. Didn't like him using Boston. I don't think I'd be rostering him. We got Manu Ginobili, who would be in play if this game was maybe going to be a little closer. Aaron Aflalo, who stinks. Kyle Anderson, who might be starting. He pissed me off. He's on my piss list. I'm not starting Kyle Anderson. I mean, he let Justin Simmons just came off the bench and just fucking destroyed it. Kelly Oubre's another one. He had a really good preseason. I like Kelly Oubre a lot. If they make room for him on the roster, because Otto Porter, he's kind of like a Otto Porter light. He does what Otto Porter does. He's just a little bit more athletic and a little more in tune and in sync to what John Wall does. They work a little bit better together when they're on the floor together. You got Garrett Temple and Raymond Felton, who's been a nice surprise, a nice addition to the team. Let me tell you something, if the coach's son wasn't on this team, Raymond Felton would see a lot more minutes. So let's go over to the small forward position. Top small forward play, of course, is Kawhi Leonard, who, you know what, it's so hard because you ever heard of getting popped? It's so easy to get popped with this team, where they will just blow the doors off of a team, and Kawhi's done in the third quarter. 2 minutes in the third quarter, Kawhi's done, and it's over. And I really think this could be the situation on tonight. And plus, if you were to fade Kawhi Leonard, you would be separate from most of the field. Anyway, this is a recency industry. A lot of people are going to look at what he just did, and they're going to just automatically put him in their lineups. I think, a subtle contrarian move would be to go somewhere else other than Kawhi Leonard. Um, and I like Markieff Morris if we do that. I like Markieff Morris. I'm kind of like developing a Washington stack where I like Markieff, I like John Wall, and I like Bradley Beal. Jay Crowder is going to be another guy you can get in your lineups too, because let's just be real, he just stands around and shoot threes on the perimeter, and then he'll go in and do a little bit of dirty work. You get a couple of rebounds, he'll maybe kick it out, get an assist or whatever. So I kind of like Jay Crowder here. And you don't have to go stars and scrubs. You can go in the middle with a 4-game slate like this, where there's no like bona fide 11K guy. You can go in the middle of whatever it is, from minimum salary to the 9200 that you got to pay for Dame Lillard. You can meet in the middle, straight down your roster, and you might be in business. I think we will be. Of course, Jonathan Simmons is going to be in play to get the scrub love against the 18th ranked small forward defense. Sacramento Kings, they suck, but they pace up, they run. It's going to be at Sacramento. Kyle Anderson, who I already told you, he's on my piss list. I'm not starting him until he shows me something different. So let's move over to the power forward. Now, in this season situation, you can start Kawhi Leonard as small forward or power forward. I want you to keep that in your mind as you're doing your roster building, okay? All right, now, power forward. Of course, we got Boogie, who, it was a letdown for us today. Well, those of us that actually rostered Boogie, because I didn't think that he was in a really good spot. So I completely had a complete fade going on Boogie. And a lot of times when you're building lineups, the first thing you got to do is understand who you are not going to play. Once you do that, I mean, you're on the right track to building your roster the way you would want it built. You've got DeMarcus Cousins here at 10.3K, and I just assume forget that he was even playing because he's playing against San Antonio. I'm not playing. I'm not rostering. I'm not investing that much for him to go and play the San Antonio Spurs. You see what I'm saying? I'm not doing that. You got Blake Griffin, which is a sizable discount. You go from 10.3K to 8.6K in a plus matchup against Portland, who's going to get out, run's going to be a pace-up game, right? So the two games that you can already tell just from my conversation that I'm targeting, I'm staying away from the Chicago game, and I'm staying away from the San Antonio game. You can tell that I like the Washington-Atlanta game, and I like the Clippers and Portland game. LaMarcus Aldridge here at power forward, Paul Millsap here. Now Paul Millsap, this says that this is a minus matchup, but I still like Paul Millsap. He's the player I still like. At 7.9K, he's just that much of a talent. And when you've got Dwight Howard in the middle, eating up space, and I really think Paul Millsap can be a good player. Markieff Morris, who we already talked about. We got Nikola Mirotic in that Boston game. I'm not really going to touch. Al-Farouq Aminu, who had a really good game last time out. He's someone that you can look to at 4.5K. Taj Gibson's going to grab some rebounds, of course, because he's going up against Amir Johnson. They're very similar players. They don't score very much. They just go up and they rebound the ball. They do the dirty work. They're like the shrimp of the team. You know what I mean? They just eat the bullshit around the bottom. Bobby Portis, who we have yet to see what he's going to be yet. So I really don't. As the season develops, we're going to see more of Bobby Portis and see exactly what we have in him. Maurice Bates is a really nice pump play. The first few games that I watched in the preseason, they really got Maurice Bates involved, and I really believe that he can come off the bench and play a long way with the second team and do well. So if you're looking for a pump play at power forward or center, Maurice Bates can definitely be a guy that you use if you wanted to pay up for somebody else. So looking at the center position, DeAndre Jordan is the first name that's going to jump off the page. He is in a plus matchup against the 28th ranked defense against centers. That's Portland. He'll be going up against Miles Plumlee at 7.7K. You gotta like DeAndre. If you have Chris Paul, I would recommend going with DeAndre Jordan. I just would recommend that. Dwight Howard at 7.5K. He's at a small discount from DeAndre Jordan, but I still like him in the game this game at Atlanta at home. First home game, they're gonna be excited, they're gonna be pumped. I still like him. LaMarcus Aldridge. I don't think I'm gonna see the run that I need to see from these San Antonio players. I can't stress that enough. Al Horford, we talked about him already. Paul Gasol was horrible in his last game out, and in a game that's probably going to be a blowout, he's not going to see, the 30 minutes that you'd have to see from Paul Gasol on the floor to actually make it work at 6.6K. Martin Gortat, he's the only player that I probably wouldn't roster with confidence from the Washington side of this game, just because he'd be going up against Dwight Howard, and you kind of gotta foul Dwight Howard. You gotta foul him. So I see Martin Gortat getting in some early foul trouble. And I know this is like crystal ball shit, but the more we watch the games, the more we keep up with players and we know their tendencies, the more we can kind of, I don't want to say predict, but we can have a keen sense on when they will perform a certain way. And I think he's prone to foul trouble when it comes to guarding Dwight Howard and or Paul Millsap attacking the basket, fighting for rebounds. So I don't like Martin Gortat at 5.3K. We got Robin Lopez. He's in Chicago. Now he does the dirty work, and this is a plus matchup for him. He's going to be going up against Amir Johnson as well in a lot of spots. So I mean, if you're like not punting the position, but I mean, I believe Robin Lopez is in play. I think he is in play. Just like this has Taj Gibson is in play. Matter of fact, if I wouldn't play, I would go Taj Gibson here. Even though Robin Lopez does have a stronger offensive game than Taj Gibson, that 4.1K for Taj you're gonna see the effects of that in your lineup when you want to pay up somewhere else. Then of course you got Amir Johnson in the same matchup at 3.5K. He's a really good play to use. We talked about Maurice Bates. And that's pretty much what we got for the positional breakdowns. Let's go into real quick the point totals for each game and see exactly what we have and where we are. First game is of course going to be that Atlanta game. This is a 204 spread. We already went over the players that we liked in this game. Just to reiterate, I like the Washington side, of course. When it comes to the front court, I like Bradley Beal, I like John Wall, and I like Kelly Oubre Jr. If I wanted to get some of that front court exposure, but it's at a cheaper price. As far as Atlanta goes, I do like Dennis Schroeder. I think he could be a good play in this game, and I like the bigs on this side. Atlanta side, I like the bigs. I like Dwight Howard, of course. I like Paul Millsap. Next game we're going to talk about is going to be the Boston game and the Chicago teams. So this is a 205 over under. Now the spread is a 1.5 spread, so that's telling me it's going to be a close game. Vegas predicted this game to be a close game, and I still don't like it. I think it's too much defense involved. I think these are two sound defensive teams, and I just really don't see, the need to go out and roster them on a 4-game slate when we got 2 other games that are going to be relatively high scoring, up pace, with bad or subpar defenses there's going to be a scoring show. So I wouldn't too much mess with that Chicago game, but we already went over some cheap plays from that game. If there's anybody that you like, the Clippers and Portland, that is a combined 210 point total. I love this game. There's a lot of good stuff in here. The only player that I probably wouldn't touch that everybody's going to be on, hopefully everybody's going to be on Lillard and everybody's going to be on Kawhi Leonard, because those are 2 players I'm fading. I'm not going to be playing them in any spot at all. So I like Chris Paul. I like Blake Griffin, of course. I like DeAndre Jordan, of course. I like CJ McCollum on the other side. I like Allen Crabbe if you're looking for that cheap scrub love. Maybe a punt, maybe like a little punt from the shooting guard or small forward position. I think this game is going to be where whoever wins their money wins their money if they pick the right players in this game. The last game is going to be the San Antonio Spurs taking on the Sacramento Kings in Sacramento. Fade. I'm not fucking with this game at all. It's a 206 over under. I need to see more of the San Antonio Spurs before I, roster them on such a short slate where I know that I believe in other plays. Because when we get into another larger slate and San Antonio Spurs are there, the guys who they have on the bench, the Justin Simmons and the Kyle Anderson, whenever he comes around, these guys are really going to make or break rosters. Like Kyle Anderson broke my roster the other night. So I'm going to need to see a little bit more from San Antonio Spurs before I, jump into rostering anybody on that team in a matchup like this that's potentially an easy blowout. Like, it's an 8.5 point spread here, and the Sacramento Kings are giving up that 8.5 points. Excuse me, they're getting 8.5 points. So I don't see a need to really touch this game. I mean, unless you want to go out there and get a quick hit, get yours from Kawhi real quick, and then have him sit down for the whole fourth quarter. That's up to you. But the next slate is going to be the Friday slate, and that is going to be another big one. It's going to be another big one. I think it's going to be another like 7 or 8 games. So we are definitely getting to that. And this has been your DFS Jerusalem. You can follow me on Twitter at DFS Jerusalem. Thank you for riding along with us. Like, comment, subscribe, share, ask questions, give answers. Whatever we got to do to be better DFS players, let's do it together. Thank y'all. Y'all have a wonderful Thursday.